Hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. I'm Shane O'Connor, he's Adrian Lacey, and first of all, I'd like to start again with an apology. This isn't the Barry White Appreciation Society. This is me again. Do you know, this is, I told you, it's having kids. They're just like, you might as well have like a
You had more since we last spoke.
I don't know how it's happening. We think it's every time my wife goes on holiday, so I'm taking it with me next year.
That raises its own questions, but proceed.
More questions and answers. No, you might as well just have a couple of Petri dishes in the corner, and just lick them from time to time, because that's all you do is get germs. I get germs, so I'm over it now anyway. But I'm a bit tunes.
Cavonia.
That's it. That's what's it, isn't it?
Ainsley Harriott.
Yeah.
Are we getting distracted already?
He never had that in his shopping bag, did he, on Ready Steady Cook, a bottle of Carvonia?
He might have been swigging it offset. You don't know, but I don't want to start rumours.
True. So apologies for the croakiness, but I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash, as everything does. So you reckon it's a no-go then, having honest obituaries for people? That wouldn't work?
This is, dear listener, if you're wanting to get up to speed. No, and so we can't even mention the person you were going to mention.
No, I've just wondered. It occurred to me before, and it's happened before when somebody's passed away, and all these tributes come out, and like if you news and you think, well, I don't remember them like that at all. Mm. But of course, there's this unwritten rule that you don't go, he owes me a tenner or whatever it happens to be, and I just thought whether it would be a help to the world, but obviously not. No, honesty is not the best policy then.
No, and that applies to you talking about me in unvarnished terms. I'd rather you didn't. Please.
Okay, I'll put my varnish away then. Or should I get my varnish out?
No, get it out.
I'm confused now. Anyway, Comedy Slab podcast, let me tell you a little bit about what's going to happen over the next 45 minutes, or failing that, about 3 quarters.
I think we wasted the first 10 of those minutes.
Don't worry, I'll edit them all out. It'll start now. Every week, we alternately choose a comedy programme to watch or listen to, and then we have a chat about it and give you an idea of what we made of it, which of course isn't a definitive answer. We urge you to go away and do your own research. And a lot of people do, don't they? It's quite interesting how we have a lot of people who listen to the Comedy Slab and they'll go away, and then you get comments like a week later or a couple of days later, and they say, well, actually, I disagree with both you, or I agree with Adrian, or I agree with Shane. This is what I thought. It was quite interesting because it's like a comedy book club without the book, really, isn't it? But
it's with the comedy, though.
Yeah,
like a little family.
Yeah, like a little comedic family. We're all a bit weird.
Speak for yourself, love.
We'll both give it a mark out of 5, giving it a grand total out of 10. We'll play a couple of clips between now and the end of the podcast as well to give you an idea of what we're going to be slabbing. It was my turn to choose last week, and I chose. And I'll tell you a bit more about how I ended up choosing this, because there is a bit of a reasoning behind it. I chose It's Kevin, the Kevin Eldon vehicle, which I think was about 2013, was it? Something like that, I think.
Exactly 2013. So that would make it getting for 9 years old now.
Can't believe it, can you really, how time flies? But yeah, so it was his, I'd like to say, and again, I guess we'll talk about this, I'd like to say sketch show with a difference. Would you say there's a difference?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by the difference. It's certainly, we're going to talk, I'm sure, about, is it surreal? Is it verging on the absurd? Or is it just plain ridiculous?
Or is it a bit daft?
Oh, yeah.
Stop messing about. But before we do any of that, should we have some comedy news? And it was my turn to find that as well, wasn't it? And I've lost it now. It's here somewhere. Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what I saw. Which caught my attention, and I thought of you. So I spent all my time thinking of you, but I thought of you because it was the fact that Blankety Blank is set to return to BBC One again.
Now, if I didn't know you better, I'd think you weren't a fan.
Well, don't get me wrong. I mean, I used to love Blankety Blank in the days when you were working on it, and the days before you worked on it.
So you like Wogan and Les Dawson?
Yeah, I never really got on with the Lily Savage thing.
Did you think that was trying to put chalk and cheese together, in that Lily Savage, well, certainly started out in the clubs as a more dangerous act. Do you think that doesn't work grafted onto a mainstream game show?
I didn't like the act. I think, do you know, to me, it was like kind of very snidey and nasty and resentful. And whereas like Les Dawson would do it with a twinkle in his eye.
Mm.
And I think to be able to get put downs right, you have to be on the mark, don't you?
People have to know it's a joke, otherwise you can't really enjoy it, can you? You can't laugh.
Or you're just being nasty. You're just bullying them, aren't you?
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, for me, that was why I wasn't really into the Lily Savage era. But I mean, fair play to Bradley Walsh. Can do no wrong, can he? He's also appearing in the remake of Darling Buds of May.
Well, that's the same theme, isn't it? Which we're talking about, which is remakes. Although that's not so much in the comedy department, that's more drama.
Well, you worked on this, so you've seen not only how it's put together, but you've seen how audiences respond to it. And you know, when I saw this, I thought, oh, let it go. You know, it's a format. Think of something new. Let it go. At what point do you go, oh, we've had enough now? I mean, what do you? I was intrigued of your thoughts because of the fact that you knew it much better than I did. I only knew it as a punter.
Well, I knew it back then. It was one of the first shows I did when I started in sound operations at TV Centre. I remember the first shock, because I thought everything was so high tech in television, was to find out, you know, I don't know if it still rotates. I guess it does it?
The set?
Yeah. Well, to find out there's two old boys cranking this thing like it's something from the Victorian era. I thought it was all going to be electronic and swish.
Did they wear, when you were there, did they wear what my dad would refer to as a cow gown? Did it like a brown kind of overall sort of thing, like a jackety kind of thing?
No, not quite that. And when I say old guys, they were probably younger than I am now. And lovely people that were too. But they were the scenic hand. But no, they were never seen, of course. So they didn't have to. No, I'm not quite that old. My dad remembers going to shows, and he told me yonks ago. He's no longer with us anyway. But he told me he went to see shows. I guess at Riverside back in the 50s, and they were in the technicians were in overalls then.
Oh wow!
But yeah, that's a different era altogether.
It is, isn't it?
But
yeah.
I guess, I mean, it comes back to our old friend of, to some extent, part of the answer is ratings. If it's still getting the ratings, as I imagine it is, although that's not the full answer, of course, because you might say, well, you know, it's their job to come up with something new. These supposedly creative types. It does seem to be falling back on, well, it is quite literally an old formula. I don't know, doesn't it? I can't imagine it's getting a wonderfully fresh audience to it, which is no slight to people of a certain age, again, like me, but shouldn't they be looking to refresh their audiences and come out with new material?
Yeah, I would have. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It's you look at it and you think there'll be a whole section of the audience now who will probably enjoy it for the first time, will not even know who Les Dawson is, or maybe even Terry Wogan, or perhaps even Lily Savage. You know, they might know Paul O'Grady, but not join up the dots, as it were. Yeah. And so therefore, it might as well be a new thing, mightn't it? It might as well be a new program to them. But I don't know. It just seems to. They've tried it with the generation game as well, haven't they? There seems like there's people in TV who really do kind of hanker after the good old days and think, well, this should work. Let's try it again. You kind of think, how many times do you try it again, or is it, you know, maybe it isn't a bad thing to do that. Perhaps it's better than just repeating the old programs. I mean, personally, I'd like to see the old Les Dawson ones. I don't know.
Well, I'd be interested to see it, although it would make me feel somewhat mature, shall we say. Now, here's the thing. Got a little quiz for you. While you were talking, I've been searching TV ratings for the last series of Blankety Blank, so again with Mr. Walsh. And I would struggle with this because I don't know. I used to look at, like the sadder I am, I used to look at the ratings each week because they used to be in the good old-fashioned print edition of the trade journal Broadcast magazine. It now only has the print version is only once a month now, although I think the ratings are available. You know, if only I'd dipped in a bit more. So anyway, I've got them in front of me from the interweb. What do you think? I'm assuming this is an average for the series. So one clue as to how big the audience might be is it's BBC One, of course. You probably knew that, rather than a more niche BBC Two or a BBC Four.
Yeah.
Also, peak time, or it's starting to be the second half of peak, 9 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. You could choose to go for share. I don't mean as in Sunny and share. I mean proportion of the people watching any TV at that time, any live TV as it goes out, as it were. Or you can go for how many millions, or you can go for both. Go for broke.
What year was this?
This is just last year, I believe.
Watching this programme?
Yes. Blankety Blank.
So it's blank millions.
Yes, it is.
I would say peak time 5.
Very good. 5.3 million.
Oh no, I meant 5 people.
Oh, hey! I fell for that one. And that was 35.7% of all viewing. That's not bad. Over a third of the people who were watching any telly at that time, apart from catch up, I don't think the share doesn't count catch up. That's a separate beast. But over a third of the people watching anything straight off their Gogglebox were, I don't mean the Gogglebox show, but they were watching Blankety Blank.
Does that, so if they're watching Netflix or
that
Apple,
wouldn't count.
Apple TV, that doesn't, and so these figures are pointless, aren't they, really, in terms of share now? Because
well, look, I think I'm right in saying that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sorry
I think
about
you're
that.
right.
But yeah,
in
I suppose
that.
it's becoming more of a complicated picture, isn't it? Because it's been fracturing for ages.
Yeah. The one I would like to do, and I've said this, I was only saying this the other day, was I would like to do an experiment. I'd like to take BBC One and put it on channel 47 and see what it does to its viewing figures. Because a lot of people just switch the TV on and it's on channel 1.
Oh yeah.
And so they leave it on in the corner making a noise. And I think BBC One gets a lot of audience just by virtue of the fact that it's the first channel.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising actually, given that everything's up in the air at the moment with the licence fee and so on as we speak, that hasn't been mooted. You would have thought that's on the agenda for the Tories.
Should we get onto the Comedy Slab?
Let's get into the meat of the show.
The meat and the gristle.
Don't mention the gristle.
He's the meat, I'm the gristle. So, what can I tell you about I've already mentioned it's a sketch show. It's called It's Kevin. And he's got quite a catchy little theme tune at the start, which I haven't clipped off for no other reason than copyright becomes a real pain with music, doesn't it? So I just think, we won't do that. It is one and only, well, so far, one and only sketch show, one series of 6. I think it's a sketch show with a twist, but we'll talk more about that in a little while. And you're going to give us a headline. Before you do that, had you seen this? Had you come across this before? Did you watch it when it went out?
I had. Now, I can't remember because it's all of those 8 or 9 years ago. I can't remember how many editions I watched.
Oh, well, let me have a guess.
No, it's more than one, I think.
Oh, okay.
But it might be less than 3.
Okay.
So it could be 2.
Was it 2?
Just to help you with the maths. Very good. Very good. Go straight to the top of the class. But the question you haven't answered me quite yet, but I'll ask it of myself, which is, what did I think when you put it on the slab as homework? I think I was quite pleased about that, but I did have reservations at the time, so I'm sure we'll dig into those.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I don't mean at the time last week. I mean at the time I saw them 2013.
Oh, okay. All right. Should we have a clip first, and then we can have a headline, and then we can dig a little bit deeper into the do you mind if I don't? And thank you very much. A quick one into this one. Then, I mean, we're just going back to 1972 and a public information film.
Men's hair fashion has come quite a way since the short back and sides our fathers and grandfathers all sported. Long hair may be with it, but is it a good thing to be with? Quite apart from the creepy crawlies using long hair as the perfect squatting opportunity. Yuck. Long hair is also a perfect menace when it comes to eating, skiing, or operating industrial machinery. From Monday the 1st of May, 1972, every male in Britain and Northern Ireland over the age of 14 will be entitled to a National Health Haircut. A cut will cost you nothing except the time taken to visit your doctor and collect a prescription, which you'll then be required to present at your nearest National Health hairdresser. They can be found at most chemists, weighbridges, and in the Royal Docks. There are two cuts, the disc jockey and the ambassador. Both cuts strike the right balance between trendy and sensible. You won't look square, but you will look stylish, so use your head. Have yourself a National Health haircut.
That was quite visual, as you now realise, listening back to it. But let me fill in one or two gaps, which is the doctor was smoking while he was prescribing this haircut.
I love that. Was it the Fast Show, or was it Harry and Paul? I can't remember who used to do that. The doctor was always smoking, and he'd say, "And also have some sausages."
I don't remember that.
From that,
it made me think more of Armstrong and Miller had a sequence of public information films.
Yes,
when they were on Channel 4. Whether they brought that over to the BBC, or I might have remembered that back to front.
I don't know if that works now. Again, talking about younger audiences, and you kind of think there's a whole generation who probably haven't ever seen a public information film.
I think I had to announce one once on Close Down on BBC One.
Wow.
My announcing days.
Wow.
Don't run round the corner when someone's holding a pane of glass. Anyway, you'll be wanting a headline, but I've really struggled. So can we get it out the way quicker, because it's not very good?
Yeah.
I started, excuse me, just leaning for my sketch pad. I started trying to do anagrams because there's a very brief but not complete anagram as part of the show in his visuals at one point, where he just swaps around the letters. I got as far as live. This is, actually it was his name I had to go for. I cheated because I thought it's Kevin. I thought I might be able to do something with that. Not enough letters because I'm not very good at it. So then we had Kevin Eldon. I thought, can I make something out of his first name and surname? I got as far as live and node, and I thought, no, I can't make a headline out of that. So I went for something a bit lame, but it tries to get the spirit of it, which is Kev in for a laugh, or Eldon fire.
Oh, they're all right.
Eldon form.
They're okay.
They're at least warm and receptive.
Yeah, at least we know where you're coming from now. But you did say you had reservations. Now, I've got no record of them here, but I can put you in room 502 for the next hour if that's any good. No, come on, what are your reservations?
Room 101. Well, actually, no, I mean, I may have given a wrong steer, or at least it's gone in the right direction. My recollection was that it didn't quite work for me, but of course that was pre-Slab days, so I haven't got a detailed recollection of any analysis I might have done.
Right.
So actually, let's spin it more positively, which is I don't quite know now, 9 years on, what my reservations were, because I think it's actually very funny. I mean, I was chuckling, and it's forever wrong-footing you.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Unless you know exactly how his mind works, in which case you're probably Kevin Eldon. Can I just try and guess what you were saying about the twist? Is it about how the sketches melt into each other?
Yeah, he doesn't kind of go just from one sketch to the other, does he? He tends to. There's always some kind of overlap or something that subverts the normal change from one sketch to another, and that's where I felt it was like this. And again, a lot of the sketches weren't normal run of the mill sketches, were they? In a way, I mean, not that I particularly liked it. In fact, it's my least favourite in the whole series. But the Great Spagboletti.
Yes, it's a recurring thing, and I think of all the sketches, it was the one I probably didn't want particularly to return to. Which
Christopher Ryan, if you're a fan of the Young Ones, you'll know he was Mike from the Young Ones, Christopher Ryan.
Oh, of course. Doesn't mean Italian accent, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, he was perfectly serviceable. It was just, it just went on too long and didn't. He's got this giant tank of tomato sauce, hasn't he? That he's going to dive into. The Great Spagboletti is going to dive into it. And that's it, really. I mean, that's the whole. He starts bad mouthing it and gets into a row with it, and we kind of keep going back to it. But even that is kind of like, it's not a traditional, what you would call a traditional sort of sketch. The reason I chose this, I'm going to mention, I forgot to say, but the reason I chose this is off the back of, I happened across, and I didn't realise that this was actually a thing, but he did a radio series called Kevin Eldon Will See You Now, which is where this comes from. In actual fact, there are some direct lifts of jokes and sketches and various bits and pieces from the radio show. I think he did 4 episodes a series. And it kind of put me in mind. I thought, oh yeah, he did a TV show as well. Let's start the TV show, which is how I ended up having listened to the radio one. I sort of ended up watching this one again and revisiting this. But I always have found him quite watchable. He's got a very watchable face, an unusual face, hasn't he?
Yes. Now I did wonder if, because I guess we should at some stage ask ourselves why it wasn't recommissioned. And on the subject of the face, I just fear there might be some ageism there, which isn't ever right, arguably. But do you think there might be something about that people want a fresh face? Oh, this is brand new talent. I know you're going to love him, ladies and gentlemen, that kind of thing, or love her. That somehow he suffered from the fact that he had done an awful lot. This is not my view. I wish to make that clear, but I'm just trying to think myself into the mind of commissioners.
Yeah, I mean, you're not a leading man kind of mentality. You're more of
something like that. Like you've been at this level, and we'll get into the wonderful shows he's been in, and he's clearly got a massive work ethic and must be loved, must be fun to work with. In fact, up front, I can say I have worked with him, but actually not closely enough to be able to say that I ever spoke to him. I worked on This Morning with Richard, Not Judy, at some ungodly hour of a Sunday morning. And I suppose when I had to dust off my memories, and the best I can come up with was that he's a team player and he just got on with it. There were I would remember if there was any, hissy fits, tantrums, tundra. But I think he was just very professional, and so there's nothing to report, I'm afraid.
They used to refer to him as the actor Kevin Eldon
on that show.
Yeah. Yeah,
I remember him. He put S's on everything. I have actually mentioned this about 100 episodes ago on the Slab. I just remember him saying, and this was the time running up to the Labour Party coming in. He used to talk about Mr. Tony Blair's,
right?
Which just reminded me of my dad referring to Cliff Richards.
Yeah,
and loads of people did it, or Wendy Richards as well. I think. Wasn't she? I have to stop and think.
She was Wendy Richards, wasn't she? I think she was with.
Oh, they got it the wrong way around, or I did. But,
yeah.
That rogue S.
But he still is a big mate of Stuart Lee. In fact, there's if you look it up on YouTube, there's Stuart Lee interviews Kevin Eldon, and I thought it'd be interesting to see. But I wanted to know more about Kevin Eldon, but they're kind of like riffing off each other. And they're in absolute hysterics, the pair of them. They're just like, there's obviously a real chemistry there with the two of them.
Well, you know how much I revere Stuart Lee, so any friend of his is a friend of mine.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're not giving too much away. I mean, I'm getting the vibe that you liked it, but let's have some flesh on the bones if I've got the vibe right.
Well, I'm like you. I kind of think, why on earth did we only seen one series? I mean, it has. He's got this kind of exquisite attention to detail that I just love about him and everything that he does. I mean, I ended up going off at extreme tangents whilst watching this. I ended up pausing it and then going off, and I watched him be part of a Kraftwerk skit with Bill Bailey. Have you seen that in his in the part Bill Bailey's Part Troll stand-up tour? Right. They do Kraftwerk doing the Okie Kokie.
Oh no!
Oh
No! I was
the
going
okie
into the Kevin
cookie.
Eldon theme.
The okie cookie. That's what it's all about. And they're doing and so Kevin Eldon's in that as well. So he's working with Bill Bailey on that one. Like you say, he's a real stalwart in terms of supporting actor. And then he did this, and I think it's Kevin. He did this Amish version of the Sex Pistols interview. Do you know when they're interviewed by Bill Grundy?
Oh yeah, and one walks off and they all say effing and jeffing.
Yeah,
go on, make it worse. Make it worse.
Is that the worst word you can say? Come on, can you say something else? You're a filthy rotter. And all this business. Well, somebody on YouTube has put the Amish Sex Pistols sketch, which actually features Matt Berry, believe it or not.
No.
And the real Bill Grundy interview side by side. And the attention to detail is incredible. It's like scene for scene almost. The movements, the arm movements, the words. God. The only difference is the one on the left. They're all Amish. It's just
Amish enough.
Yeah, it's Amish enough, isn't it? Yeah. And again, it's his mind, the way his mind works. You kind of think where on we talked about it just briefly. The George Martin. Adolf Hitler morph, how do you end up thinking this is a great idea? We could do this. In actual fact, I do know that because he told Stuart Lee about that and said it was the other way round. It was Adolf Hitler as the manager of the Beatles. Sorry, as the producer of the Beatles, he said. But he said it just ended up with a lot of shouting. He said, so I tried.
You Phil, go back and do another take.
Yeah. So he said, I just turned it round. He said, and it just worked perfectly. He said, so.
Well, the other thing that's perfect is we were commenting just this very even, just before we hit record, was just how brilliant his George Martin is. If you shut your eyes or if you're just listening to the audio as we are on this show, and you will hear it in the second clip, will you not?
Yeah, you've got a clip of that coming up. So, I don't think there's anybody. Well, you were saying the only person you know better was actually George Martin, and he'd actually got an unfair advantage in fairness to him, really.
Yes, but actually, he went for electrocution lessons. Elocution lessons. George Martin, the real George Martin, Sir George Martin, as he became.
Oh, did he?
Rest his soul. Yeah. So he didn't come from posh stock, but he sounded like he did.
Oh, right.
A lot of people did in those days go for elocution lessons. Nowadays, apparently, and it sounds like a joke, but I'm assured it's true, that posh people go to have their accents brought down market a bit closer to what we used to call the street.
Rough them up a bit.
Yeah. So they sound like you and me.
Do you know, you're talking about the ageism thing. I wonder, is that part of that as well? Is because of his reference points, things like Adolf Hitler, 1970s public information films. There was a Simon Day sketch, wasn't there, a bit later on, where he's selling screaming pillows.
Do you think that looked a bit like Alan Freeman doing Brentford Nylons or something?
Deptford Nylons.
Was that remind me which that send up came from? Which show that came from?
That was the Fast Show, I think, wasn't it? Deptford Nylons.
I think you're right.
Was it? Oh no, it was Harry Enfield. Harry Enfield.
Right.
Harry Enfield show. Because it was Harry Enfield, wasn't it? Get down now to Deptford Nylons.
Not half.
And everything he touched crackled with electricity, with static electricity.
Well, people of a younger persuasion do Google it. Go to YouTube and put in Brentford Nylons first, so that you believe there is actually a supposedly serious advert for that. The colours, have you seen the colours in recent years? They've got more vivid over time. I'm convinced.
No. I mean,
bright shades of blue and pink. That's
the wonderful thing about YouTube, though, isn't it? Because like the original ad is still on YouTube for Brentford Nylons. I mean,
you were going to say Deptford Nylons again, weren't you?
I was trying to think what it was really called. Yeah, I mean, who on earth? I mean, what a name for a company as well. Brentford Nylons. It's like I don't know. It was a funny time, wasn't it? The 70s.
Well, I know someone who lived in the converted building that was the factory for Brentford Nylons. Guess where in London it is? Don't say nylons.
Is it Brentford?
Oh, it's almost like you've cheated.
It's not Deptford.
It is
then.
Indeed. It's not Deptford and it's not Nylons. Anyway, where are we going to go with this? I mean, there's just so much. I'm looking on Wikipedia as to his amazing roll call of shows he's been in. His first professional credit, if they've got it right here, in the world of TV, 1992. So that means this year is the 30th. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Anniversary. And we could mention anything from Knowing Me, Knowing You with Alan Partridge. There's rarely a podcast, a Comedy Slab podcast, where Mr. Partridge doesn't get a mention, but hey. Right through to, another Armando Iannucci production and Nathan Barley. Saxondale, which we've slabbed in fairly recent memory.
Yeah.
Robin Hood, Merlin, those two are related. Stuart Lee's comedy vehicle, well, you've explained the context for that. Ruddy Hell, it's Harry and Paul. I could go on. Brian Pern, the spoof. Red Dwarf 11, and so on and so forth. Impressive, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, and like you say, he's very much in demand because of his versatility. And the one thing, again, I went off on another tangent on YouTube because he'd been involved in the project to bring Dad's Army's lost episodes to the screen. Did you see that, where they just got the scripts, they reenacted the scripts, and he actually played Corporal Jones, and he was blooming amazing. He really was. Yeah. I mean, he was channeling his full on Clive Dunn, which was again just another versatile thing that he does. I did wonder, we're talking about the wonderful big production song and dance number that he does at the start, which incidentally, I don't know if you remember, he writes different lyrics each week. So there's the theme tune is a different one each week. It's the same theme tune, but different words to it. But is it my imagination, or is he channeling his inner Muppet there?
Oh, there's definitely, because there's loads of sort of little effigies of him, and they are Muppet style. Yeah. Did you mean more than that he's sort of aping the style of the kind of the guest on the Muppets? Well,
no, it's that kind of like the big, this is what we call the Muppet Show. It's that kind of big number at the start, wasn't it? They used to do.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, it's just kicking things off really, it's a shut up and listen kind of thing, isn't it? Although interestingly, and I'm guessing this changes every week, he begins with a sort of sarky, can't be bothered kind of look, which you just know is.
Oh no, that was because that was what the music was all. The theme tune was all about, wasn't it? This week I'm really feeling really in a bad mood and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
But I mean, this is the thing as well. He's an accomplished musician. I mean, he's played in bands. In fact, he played in a band called Virginia Dozens, which had a Peel section. And then he played.
Clearly, they had a Peel session.
Yeah. And I'm not really sure. I can't do John Peel. And then he was in a band called The Time, who supported The Jam, Joe Jackson, Bad Manners, and as they used
way.
And as Kato used to say,
I think he's old enough.
No. But he's about 57, isn't he? I think he's of that era, I suppose. So, but yeah. So I presume that's where his love of music comes from. But I don't know. I mean, I just kind of found it refreshingly different, and it was interesting that I found a quote when he was asked. He said, would he have wanted to do a second series? Which seems like a bit of a silly question, really, isn't it? Really,
yes.
But he said yes. He said because you find your way in the first series. He said, and then if you get a second series. What went wrong, what didn't work so well, he said, and what went right, and then you capitalise on it, he said. So I'd have loved the opportunity to do that, but he didn't get the chance. It wasn't for the want of him not wanting to do it, you know what I mean? It was
Sorry, was that in the Stuart Lee interview?
No, that was I think that was a press interview that he did, a written press interview.
Because I've just discovered a website called Not BBC, which is half referencing Not the 9 o'clock news. And there's a written interview there. I've never discovered this website before, but it's got the sort of 1990s BBC website look. I don't know how far back this particular interview goes, whether it goes back to that time or whether it's sort of, it's saying 2006. So it's kind of a retro look and very much tongue in cheek.
Right.
But I look forward to digging into that hopefully a bit later on.
Should we have another clip and play the second clip? We've been treated to some pretty grim reality. This again, I suppose this is a throwback to the, what would it be, early 80s.
Is it a Brookside send up?
No, I think it was like a Boys from the Black stuff. Ken Bleasdale, isn't it? I think that kind of.
Yeah.
Or Ken Bleaksdale, as they call him on this. He said, "We get a bit of a break from the grim reality of this Ken Bleaksdale gritty drama, where everybody has AIDS and the daughter's pregnant and."
It's worse than that. She's joined the Young Conservatives.
And nuclear war's about to break out. But anyway, we get a bit of a break from that because one of the main characters takes off on this imaginative flight of fancy.
Hey, what would it be like if fascist scum Adolf Hitler had actually had the vocal tone of posh musical producer George Martin? Hey, what?
So where did it all go wrong? Well, I'm sure you've heard a lot of people say that it was when the Japanese became involved. But that's far from the whole story. I think we lost a lot of fans when we started getting more experimental. Suddenly we weren't the lovable National Socialists anymore. It was, those crazy Nazis, they're into administering weird drugs now. And certainly there were personal differences. Heydrich, for example, was getting into all this far-out annihilation of consciousness stuff. In particular, the consciousness of anybody who wasn't German or a Nazi. Whilst Goering just wanted to play drums. But whatever, they were fantastic times, and I wouldn't have missed them for the world. Although I suppose it was the world that I was after in the first place. So I suppose I would have missed them for the world, but not for anything else. Not for anything else. Not for anything. Would I have missed them? No! Not a single thing! Would I have missed them for? Communist times!
Yeah, it'll be like that.
And I'm picking up on that's probably the fifth time I've heard that now. But I'm less distracted because that's audio, so I'm not got the visual distraction.
Yeah.
And I can see what you mean by attention to detail, because he's got even the resonances in the nostrils of George Martin, and a slight, I don't know, even the subtlety of the saliva with the tongue and just breathing in. Amazing. But that's why it's so accurate.
And it's also the things that he says as well, isn't it? He'll throw in like a George Martinism, like, and Goering just wanted to play drums. It's just genius, isn't it?
I'm not sure that George Martin ever actually said that particular sentence.
No, but I mean, you could imagine that he would, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? It brings you back to George Martin, doesn't it, straight away?
Oh, yeah, always.
So clever.
Can't see him as a goose-stepping fascist, thank the Lord. But I can certainly hear Kevin Eldon as Sir George Martin. Uncanny. Do
you know the other thing I wanted to ask you as well, as an ex-announcer or a one-time announcer? I mean, you're once an announcer, always an announcer.
Always an announcer, darling.
It's always in the chords, the vocal chords. In the copy that we watched this on, the announcer talks all over the end bit where there's this kind of starter motor trying to do something.
That's the theme tune.
And
the closing sing.
And I just thought, what is he doing? I mean, is that your decision when you're in the booth?
Sadly, no. I always did it under protest. Well, I didn't make any protests, otherwise you don't get hired.
Yeah.
But no, it just became, as there became more and more channels, basically the credits became the place where people start flicking around, looking, seeing if there's something they'd enjoy more.
Right.
And so it comes from someone, I mean, different channels will give them different names, but the BBC, at that stage, they were called channel editors or presentation editors, I think was the term. Presentation being the department of gluing it all together. They make the trailers or commission them, et cetera, et cetera. So all the joins come under the head of presentation, how we're going to present these shows as a continuous night's viewing or whatever it is.
You would think then that somebody would say, to the program makers, don't put anything that you want to be heard over the end credits because we're going to talk all over them.
Yeah, well, some producers ask for a requested intro, so that was common practice and had been for years. I don't recall producers saying, although they might have said it amongst themselves and in their drinking clubs, we don't like announcers talking all over our credits. And the other thing was, and it went in and out of fashion, I don't know where we are with it now, I think they do it more than not, zooming credits so that you can then have a picture with a moving picture trail for the next item. Massively annoying, but unfortunately that is a consequence, while the rationale for it is the proliferation of channels.
The converse of that is in his radio show, on the first series, he didn't put any credits or anything on the end, and the announcer had to do it. And at one stage, he was made to say, and the special guest was Phil Cornwell as a man shouting "Whiz Beach." I don't
think I could have announced that with a straight face.
Because at one point, Phil Cornwell's just going, "Whiz Beach, Whiz Beach, Whiz Beach."
Mad. Before I forget, though, BBC Productions own the copyright, so we should give them credit. That was before BBC Studios came along.
Yeah.
So, must be scoring time. I can't remember whose turn it is. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go on. Why not? Why not? It's going to get a good glowing review, isn't it, by the feel of it, I would have thought.
Oh, blow it. 4.5.
Oh,
hang the expense.
That's mad.
I know. Well, surreal. That's me for you.
Well,
balmy.
I was going to give it a 4.5 as well.
But you won't now.
I will, yeah. 4.5 for me as well.
9 out of 10. That is pretty darn good.
I know.
That says, give me a second series.
The only rubbish thing about it is that that's it. There is no more. You kind of think... I'm always amazed that, as you said, there are so many channels now and so many production companies. I'm always amazed that somebody doesn't see this and go, "Oh yeah, we'll make the second series." It's weird, isn't it? I don't get why. Instead, they're remaking Blankety Blank or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
I don't remember it having that extra B in it.
Well, it was a blank, wasn't it? So you didn't know what it was.
I suppose, yeah. Well, you misread it then.
What you got for us for next week then, sweetie?
Well, funny you should ask. I'm going to give you a clue, which it's picking up on a catchphrase, which the original catchphrase could have been phrased, "I am utterly incredulous."
Is it? I don't believe it.
Yes! Well, except it's not that. It's the very opposite. It's called Believe It.
Believe It.
Believe it or believe it not. So who are we talking about? Obviously.
Richard Wilson.
I do believe it. Yes, it is Richard Wilson.
I've heard this. This is the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
It's one of the, talk about surreal. And the names he's got in it, the big names. It's called The Not Quite True Autobiography of Richard Wilson.
Right.
And of course, it's not even an autobiography. It's John Cantor, looks like it's the writer, produced and directed by Clive Brill. What we're going for specifically is something from Series 3. I can't see episode numbers, but this is called Legacy. It could be, don't quote me on this, it could be episode 3, but it's certainly Series 3 and it's certainly called Legacy. So that is your homework. That is, give or take half an hour. You'll find it on BBC Sounds. Don't hang about though, because as we speak, it's just available for, by the time you hear this, it'll be just over 2 weeks.
Okay, all right, nice one. So that's for next week. I was going to say, I don't know whether you're all right with this, but we normally do the social media stuff and all that business, and where you can find what. And I thought, well, being we did Kevin Eldon this week, could we let Kevin do it for us this week?
I'd give it a try. Is there one you've prepared earlier?
Now, just a quick reminder that if any of you listeners are digilog worms, you can space browse a contents marker version of the show on Kevin Eldon //gash. If you prefer to surf the blog book, you can find me at BBC Radio 4 extrathin.markethall. And if you're a dribbler and you want to hear, add to or subtract from all the latest dribbles, then dribble your dribble on Keldon Dribble Rad 4 and Dribble On. Plus, if you're keen for a virtual tour around my ribs to find out what colour my intercostal muscles are, you can push any red button you happen to see anywhere and just imagine what they might be like.